Have you ever been so desperate to avoid your ex that you'd do something absolutely crazy? Emma did. She walked up to a stranger in a crowded room and said, "Pretend you love me." He said yes. And that yes changed both of their lives forever. Welcome to Voice of Granny. While you hear, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. You know that feeling when you see someone from your past and your whole body just screams, "Run"? That's exactly what happened to Emma Wilson on a Friday night in downtown Chicago. Picture this: the Grand Horizon Hotel ballroom, all lit up with fancy lights and filled with successful people in expensive clothes. Emma stood near the door in a dress she'd bought at a thrift store, shoes she'd gotten on sale with a little scuff mark she'd colored in with a Sharpie. She was 25 years old, worked as a social worker, and honestly, she was about 2 seconds away from walking right back out. She didn't belong here. Everyone else looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. Emma, she was just trying to make rent every month while helping kids who really needed someone in their corner. But then she saw him, Jake Peterson, her ex-boyfriend, the guy who'd cheated on her with her roommate, which meant she lost both her relationship and her apartment in one awful week. The guy who told her she was wasting her life helping other people's problems when she should be focused on making something of herself. And there he was, walking toward her with that same cocky smile, a new girlfriend on his arm who looked like she'd never worried about money a day in her life. Emma's heart started racing. She couldn't do this. Couldn't stand there and let him look down on her again. Couldn't let him see that she was still alone while he'd clearly moved on. Her eyes darted around the room desperately, and that's when she saw him. A man standing by himself near the bar. Tall, probably 6'2", wearing a perfectly fitted navy blue suit. He had dark skin, a close-cut fade, and this calm, confident way of standing that made you think he had everything figured out. Emma didn't think. She just moved. She walked right up to this complete stranger and whispered, "Please, I need you to pretend to be my boyfriend for just 5 minutes. My ex is coming over, and I can't face him alone. I know this is crazy, but please." The man looked down at her, surprised. He was handsome, probably in his early 30s, with intelligent eyes that seemed to be taking in the whole situation at once. "Please," Emma said again, her voice cracking. "Just act like you care about me. I'll explain everything later, I promise." Something changed in his expression. Without saying a word, he slipped his arm around her waist and pulled her close. Emma felt the warmth of his hand on her back, caught the scent of his cologne, something clean and expensive. "Emma," Jake's voice cut through the moment. "Didn't think social workers could afford tickets to places like this." Before Emma could respond, the stranger beside her spoke. "I'm her boyfriend," Emma said quickly. "This is Michael," the man said smoothly. "Michael Hayes. And you must be Jake, the ex." They shook hands, and Emma could see Jake sizing Michael up, trying to figure out if he measured up. "How long have you two been dating?" Jake asked. 3 months, Michael answered without hesitation. "Best 3 months of my life, actually." He looked down at Emma with such convincing warmth that she almost believed it herself. Emma's incredible. The work she does with those kids, the way she shows up for them every single day, it's inspiring. I had to chase her for weeks before she agreed to go out with me. She kept saying she was too busy, but I finally convinced her that she deserved happiness too. Emma felt her cheeks get hot. The way he said it, with all those specific details, it sounded so real. Jake's smug smile faltered. "That's great," he managed. "We should catch up sometime." "Maybe," Michael said coolly. "If you'll excuse us," I promised Emma a dance. He guided Emma onto the dance floor as soft music filled the room. Emma's hands were shaking as she placed them on his shoulders. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm so sorry for ambushing you like that. I just panicked when I saw him, and you were standing there, and I didn't know what else to do." "I could see that," Michael said gently. "That was your ex?" "Yeah." Emma let out a long breath. "He cheated on me with my roommate. So I lost my apartment and my relationship at the same time. And he made me feel like I was crazy for being upset about it. Told me I was too emotional, too demanding. I just couldn't face his judgment tonight. Couldn't let him see that I'm still alone while he's clearly doing just fine." "Are you really a social worker?" Michael asked, and there was genuine interest in his voice, not the usual pity or dismissal she usually heard. Emma nodded. "I work with foster kids, trying to find them good homes. I'm managing about 25 cases right now, which is way too many, but we don't have enough staff. It doesn't pay much. Some months I barely make rent. But it matters, you know? These kids need someone fighting for them. Jake always said I was wasting my potential on people who couldn't help me get ahead. Michael's jaw tightened. He's an idiot. What you do is more important than anything most people in this room do, including me. Those kids need someone who sees them as human beings, not just case numbers. What do you do? Emma asked. I run a business, Michael said vaguely. It's not important. Tell me more about your work. What made you choose this path? And so they danced and talked. Emma found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't in years. Michael asked real questions, seemed genuinely interested, never once checked his phone or looked around for someone more important to talk to. She told him about little Sophie, an 8-year-old who'd been in 7 different homes in 5 years and was starting to think something was wrong with her. She told him about David, a 17-year-old about to age out of the system with nowhere to go. Michael listened to every word. When the song ended, he said, "Would you like to stay? I'm supposed to be networking tonight, but honestly, I'd rather spend the evening talking with you." Are you sure? Emma asked. You don't have to keep pretending. Jake's gone. I'm not pretending anymore, Michael said quietly. I really do want to get to know you better, Emma Wilson. The way he said her name made something warm bloom in her chest. They spent the next 2 hours together. When the evening ended, Michael walked Emma to her car, a 10-year-old Honda with a dent in the door. He didn't even blink. I'd like to take you to dinner, he said. A real date. Emma smiled. I'd like that too. Tomorrow night? Tomorrow's perfect. Let me tell you, those next few weeks felt like a dream Emma kept waiting to wake up from. Michael took her to nice restaurants, sure, but he also showed up at her favorite place, the Daily Grind, a little black-owned coffee shop in her neighborhood where they sat for hours over $5 lattes and Miss Betty's famous pound cake. One evening, Michael showed up at Emma's tiny apartment with takeout from Soul Sister's Kitchen, a place she'd mentioned loving but rarely had money for. Hope this is okay, he said, holding up bags of food. I asked your friend Jessica where you like to eat. She gave me a whole list. They sat on Emma's worn-out couch eating fried chicken, greens, and mac and cheese while Emma worked through her case files. Michael didn't seem to notice that her apartment was small, that her furniture was secondhand, that you could hear the neighbors through the walls. Tell me about this one, he said, pointing to a file. Emma explained a complicated situation with 3 siblings who needed to stay together, but most foster families wouldn't take more than 2 kids. What if I made some calls? Michael offered. Reached out to some foster families I know through community connections? You'd do that? Emma asked, surprised. Of course, if it helps keep them together. Another evening, he met her outside the courthouse after a rough hearing. A placement had fallen through, and Emma was devastated. Michael was waiting with her favorite coffee order. How did you know I'd be here? She asked. You mentioned it yesterday. I wanted to be here in case you needed support. They sat on a bench, and Emma cried on his shoulder while he just held her. He started meeting the kids she worked with. He met Sophie during a supervised visit and talked to her about her drawings, asking real questions that made the shy girl open up. He played basketball with David at the community center and talked to him about college without being preachy, just sharing his own struggles instead of acting like he had all the answers. Michael learned Emma's coffee order by heart. Medium caramel latte with oat milk and an extra shot. He showed up with it on mornings when she had court appointments. He remembered all the kids' names and asked for updates, celebrating the wins and offering comfort during the losses. One Saturday, they went to a street festival in Emma's neighborhood. Michael wore jeans and a regular t-shirt, and they ate funnel cake and listened to local bands. This is nice, Michael said. I'm usually at business dinners where everyone's putting on a show. This feels real. This is my world, Emma said. No champagne or fancy presentations. Just good music and good people. I really like your world, Michael said, taking her hand. Emma's heart skipped a beat at what that implied. Everything felt perfect. Too perfect, maybe. But Emma pushed that thought away. She was happy, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like someone truly saw her. Then came their 4th official date. Michael took her to an upscale steakhouse downtown. As they were leaving, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit approached them. Mr. Hayes, the man said respectfully. Thank you again for your advice on the Henderson deal. Your insights were invaluable. Everything closed last week. Glad it worked out, Robert. Michael said politely but coolly. Are you coming to the board meeting next month? Everyone's eager to hear about the expansion plans for Hayes Industries. Emma's heart stopped. She excused herself to the bathroom. Once inside, her hands shaking, she pulled out her phone and searched Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes, founder and CEO of Hayes Industries. Estimated net worth, $2.8 billion. Forbes, Fortune, Business Insider. Photos of him at charity events, business conferences, shaking hands with politicians. One of the most successful Black executives in America under 40. Emma stared at her phone screen, her mind racing. This billionaire had spent the last month eating fried chicken in her cramped apartment, playing cards with foster kids, listening to her complain about needing new tires. When she came back to the table, she could barely breathe. "Why didn't you tell me?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael's expression changed immediately. He knew she'd found out. "All this time," Emma continued, her voice shaking, "you let me complain about money problems, about struggling to pay rent. And you're a billionaire. I told you I had to wait until payday to buy work shoes. Do you know how humiliating this is?" "Emma, please let me explain." "Explain what?" Emma felt tears prickling her eyes, but anger was rising too. "That you've been lying to me this whole time?" "I never lied to you," Michael said quietly. "I told you I run a company. I just didn't specify which one or how big it was." "That's the same as lying," Emma shot back. "I've been completely honest with you about everything. My struggles, my tiny apartment, my student loans. And you've been hiding this massive part of who you are." Michael leaned forward. "Because I wanted you to know me. Not my bank account. Every woman I've ever dated has been interested in what I have, not who I am. They see dollar signs before they see me. They change their whole personality to match what they think I want." His voice grew more passionate. "You asked me to pretend at that gala. But Emma, I've spent the last month falling in love with you for real. And I didn't want my money to change how you saw me. I didn't want you to start second-guessing every word or wondering if you were good enough. I just wanted to be Michael, the guy who thinks you're amazing." Emma felt tears rolling down her cheeks. "You should have trusted me with the truth." "You're right," Michael said. "I was scared. Scared you'd change once you knew. Scared I'd lose the only real connection I've had in years. But I should have trusted you. I'm sorry. I need time to think," Emma said, standing up. "I need space." "Emma, please." "I'm serious, Michael. I need to process this." She left, her heart breaking, her mind spinning. For 3 days, Emma ignored Michael's calls. She threw herself into work, trying not to think about him. But it was impossible. During a home visit, Sophie asked, "Where's Mr. Michael?" "I made him a drawing." Emma's heart clenched. "We're taking a break, sweetie." "Why?" "He was nice. He actually listened when I talked about my art. Most grown-ups just say, 'That's nice,' and stop paying attention." David said something similar at the community center. "Mr. Hayes hasn't been around. Everything cool? I liked talking to him. He didn't act like he had all the answers, you know?" That evening, there was a knock on Emma's door. When she opened it, Michael stood there, his eyes red-rimmed like he hadn't slept. "Please," he said. "Just hear me out. If you still want me to leave after, I will." Emma let him in. They sat on her couch, and Michael took a deep breath. "I was in foster care," he said quietly. Emma's breath caught. "I entered the system when I was 6. My mom died of cancer, and my dad just disappeared. I was in 12 different homes over 10 years. Most of them were terrible. People who did it for the monthly check." His voice cracked. "In one home, I slept in a closet. Literally. They rented out the bedroom to another family and put a sleeping bag in a hallway closet for me. The door didn't lock. I kept my shoes on in case I needed to run." Emma's hand flew to her mouth. "Another home, the foster dad hit me for getting a B on a test. Left bruises I had to hide. I learned to make myself invisible, to not ask for anything, to expect nothing from anyone." Michael stared at his hands. "When I was 16, I got placed with Mrs. Dorothy Baker. She lived alone, and she noticed things. Noticed I was good at math. Every night, she sat with me at her kitchen table helping with homework. She had this yellow tablecloth with little flowers on it. I can still smell her lavender hand lotion from when she'd lean over to check my work." Tears streamed down Emma's face. "She came to my high school graduation. Only person in the audience there for me. I remember scanning the crowd, seeing her in the 3rd row wearing this purple church hat, waving at me like I'd just won the lottery. I almost lost it right there on stage." He looked up at Emma. "She helped me get a scholarship to college. I studied business and computer science, worked 3 jobs, built my first company in my dorm room. Sold it for $18 million when I was 24. Used that money to start Hayes Industries. His eyes met hers. And I never forgot where I came from. That gala where we met. I funded it. I started the Community Hope Foundation to support foster care programs, provide scholarships for kids aging out of the system, and fund training for social workers. Because I wanted other kids to have what Mrs. Baker gave me. Someone who believed in them. Michael took her hand. But I don't publicize my connection to it because it's not about me. It's about the kids. Emma couldn't speak. She just squeezed his hand tighter. When you told me about your work that first night, I wanted to tell you everything right then. You're doing what I wished someone had done for me. But I also wanted to hear your perspective without influencing it. You know what works because you live it every day. He continued. And I wanted you to see that I valued your work for its own sake. When I'm with you, I'm thinking about how your laugh sounds. How you remember every detail about your kids. How you pretend you don't cry during commercials, but you totally do. You should have trusted me with the truth, Emma said softly. All of it from the beginning. You're right, Michael admitted. I was scared, but I should have trusted you. I'm sorry, Emma. Really sorry. Emma looked at him. This man who'd brought her soup when she was sick. Who'd sat with her while she cried about a case. Who'd remembered David's basketball game and shown up to cheer. Tell me more about Mrs. Baker, she said. I want to know everything. They talked until 3 a.m. Michael told her everything. How Mrs. Baker had taught him to cook. How she'd made him feel like he mattered for the first time in his life. How when she passed away 5 years ago, he'd given the eulogy and told everyone she'd saved his life. The Community Hope Foundation is named after her street, Michael said. Hope Street. That's where she lived. Where she taught me that I had value. I wish I could have met her, Emma said. She would have loved you. She always said the people who change the world are the ones who show up every day and do the hard work nobody else wants to do. That's you, Emma. Over the next week, they talked more. One evening, as they sat in Emma's apartment, she brought up something that had been on her mind. We need to talk about boundaries, Emma said. About your money and what that means for us. Michael nodded seriously. I'm listening. Emma took a deep breath. I need to know that my work, my struggles, my independence, they're still mine. I don't want you swooping in to fix everything with your checkbook. That's not a partnership. That's a rescue mission. Understood, Michael said. So here's what I need, Emma continued. I pay my own rent. I buy my own groceries. I handle my own student loans. If I complain about my car, I'm venting, not asking you to buy me a new one. Okay, but, Emma said, her voice softening, if we're going to build something real, I need to be able to accept help sometimes without feeling like I'm failing. So if you want to bring dinner when I'm working late, that's okay. If you want to split a date night, that's okay. If there's a real emergency, I need to know I can ask without it changing things between us. Michael took her hands. I hear you. Your independence is part of who you are, and I wouldn't want to change that. But I also want to be able to take care of you sometimes in ways that feel like partnership, not charity. Exactly, Emma said. What about my work? Michael asked. The foundation supports programs. If that overlaps with what you're doing, how do we handle that? We keep it separate, Emma said firmly. If the foundation wants to support my agency, that goes through proper channels. You don't use your money to influence my cases or solve problems I'm working through the system. I need to know my wins are mine. Absolutely, Michael agreed. Your work is yours. I won't interfere. And one more thing, Emma said carefully. I don't want to be your charity project or your way of fixing your past. I'm here because I love you, but you need to be dealing with your childhood in healthy ways too. Michael nodded slowly. That's fair. I have a therapist I see once a month. Maybe I should go more often. Maybe we both should, Emma said. This is a lot to navigate. We might need help. I'd like that, Michael said. Therapy together, to make sure we're building something healthy. Emma felt relief wash over her. Thank you for hearing me. For not getting defensive. Thank you for being clear about what you need, Michael said. I'd rather know your boundaries than stumble across them and hurt you. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. So we're really doing this? Emma asked. If you'll have me, Michael said. I'll have you, Emma smiled. The real you. Closet sleeping, kitchen table homework, purple church hat you. Michael kissed her softly. And I'll have you. Tiny apartment, soul food loving, saves the world one kid at a time you. Over the following months, their relationship grew within the boundaries they'd set. Michael kept his word about honesty and respecting Emma's independence. Emma learned to accept care without losing herself. One Saturday, Michael surprised her. "I want to take you somewhere important to me. Will you come?" He drove them to a group home on the edge of the city, a well-maintained building with a playground and basketball courts. "This is one of the homes the foundation supports," Michael explained. "They're having their annual summer barbecue today. I thought you might want to come. Maybe bring Sophie and David." Emma's heart swelled. She made some calls, and soon they arrived at a park where dozens of foster children were gathering. Michael had arranged for food trucks, games, face painting, a DJ, and activities. But here's the thing, he didn't just write a check and stand back. He jumped right in. He played basketball with teenagers, pushed younger kids on swings, judged a hula hoop competition, sat with a quiet boy who looked about 8 years old. Emma watched him kneel down to the boy's level, talking quietly. Later, she asked what they'd discussed. "He said he doesn't think anyone will ever want to adopt him because he's too old and too quiet," Michael said. "I told him that someone wanted me even when I was 16 and had given up hope. I told him his quietness isn't a flaw. It means he's thoughtful. I gave him my email and said he could write to me anytime." Sophie ran up, breathless and happy, her face painted like a butterfly. "This is the best day ever." Mr. Michael got an ice cream truck. David approached with a rare smile. "He's cool," the teenager said, nodding toward Michael, who was now helping set up for 3-legged races. "He doesn't talk down to us. Treats us like real people." Emma watched Michael laughing with a group of kids, his jeans dusty from kneeling in the grass, completely focused on making these children feel seen and valued. She realized something important. This wasn't about his money or guilt about his past. This was about a man who remembered what it felt like to be forgotten. And he was determined that these kids would know they mattered. As the sun started to set, Michael found Emma sitting on a bench. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Thank you for bringing me," she replied. "For letting me see this side of you. This is what it's all about," Michael said, gesturing to the children playing. "Not the board meetings or business deals. This, making sure they know someone cares." Emma took his hand. "I love you. I think I have since that first dance, but now I know why. You don't just write checks. You show up. You remember names. You see them. I love you too," Michael said. "You've taught me what these kids really need. Not just money, but people who fight for them every single day. You've made me want to be better." 6 months after that desperate moment in the ballroom, Michael proposed. They were back at the Grand Horizon Hotel for another Community Hope Foundation event. Emma wore a beautiful emerald green dress that made her feel like $1,000,000. Michael got down on one knee in the same ballroom, where panic had sent her running into a stranger's arms. "You asked me to pretend for those first few minutes," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. "I want to spend the rest of my life proving I don't have to pretend at all. Will you marry me, Emma Wilson?" Emma said yes through happy tears. Across the ballroom, Jake Peterson quietly left. He'd seen everything, and for once, he had nothing to say. Their wedding happened 9 months later in a beautiful garden venue. Sophie, now successfully adopted, served as junior bridesmaid in purple, the same color as Mrs. Baker's church hat. Emma had been there for every step of Sophie's adoption journey. David, now 18 and in college on a Community Hope scholarship, walked Emma down the aisle. She'd asked him weeks before, and he'd cried when he said yes. Michael's vows made everyone cry. "She needed someone to pretend," he said, his voice breaking. "I got a lifetime of real. She saw past everything on the surface to who I really am. She loved that person, just Michael, the scared foster kid who thought he'd never have a family." Emma spoke through her own tears. "You could have walked away when a stranger asked you for a crazy favor. Instead, you stayed. You saw me. You taught me that real love doesn't pretend. It shows up." After the ceremony, Sophie hugged Emma tight. "You found your forever family," she whispered. "Just like you helped me find mine." The reception was filled with an unusual mix of people. Foster children in their Sunday best. Social workers in dresses they'd saved up for. Business executives in designer suits. And Mrs. Baker's daughter, who'd flown in from across the country and told Emma that her mother would have been so proud of Michael. As the night went on, Emma and Michael stood together watching their guests dance and laugh. "Thank you for saying yes that night," Emma whispered. "Thank you for being brave enough to ask," Michael replied, kissing her forehead. That first moment of borrowed courage had become something real. Something lasting. Something forever. 3 years later, Emma and Michael stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Emma Wilson Center for Foster Care Excellence. a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to training social workers. This center exists because someone took a chance on a desperate woman at a party, Emma told the crowd gathered. It offers comprehensive training programs, mental health support for social workers dealing with trauma, and resources that are already making a real difference. Our placement success rate has improved by 18% since we started these programs. Sophie, now 12 and thriving in her forever home, stood in the front row. David, a junior in college studying social work himself, stood beside her. That first moment of courage can change everything, Emma concluded, her voice strong and clear. For me, it changed everything. Michael squeezed her hand. Both of them were thinking about that panic-stricken moment in a ballroom, when a lie became the beginning of their truth. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask a stranger for help. Sometimes that stranger becomes your whole world. And sometimes, just sometimes, pretending turns into the most real thing you've ever known. Emma looked out at all the faces watching her. The kids she'd helped, the social workers she'd trained, the community she'd built with Michael. And she thought about how one desperate decision had led to all of this. To purpose, to family, to love, to forever. Michael leaned close and whispered in her ear, "Best 5 minutes of pretending I ever did." Emma laughed, tears in her eyes. "Best desperate decision I ever made." They kissed while the crowd cheered. Two people who'd found each other in the most unexpected way and built something beautiful from it. Because that's the thing about love, isn't it? Sometimes it starts with a lie. Sometimes it begins in panic. Sometimes you find your forever in the last place you'd ever expect to look. But when it's real, when it's right, when it's meant to be, none of that matters. All that matters is that you found each other. And Emma and Michael? They'd found each other, and they were never letting go. The end.